ReZero, Volume 4, Chapter 5, Part 1. Subaru Natsuki, the Self-Declared Knight. Subaru learned of how the tale had proceeded in his absence, thanks to Reinhardt and Ferris, who had showed up together in the castle's waiting room. And so, the magnificent royal selection began, Ferris concluded. Subaru, you're going to serve as Lady Amelia's knight, huh? Good luck to both of us. Ferris wrapped up his summary, but the sarcastic twist of the knife at the end was very sharp indeed. He'd been in the chamber from start to finish. Surely, he knew quite well what kind of mental state Subaru was in. But Subaru had no time to pay the Jap any heed. The royal selection details were crucial, but at that moment, there was an issue Subaru had to find out about even more than that. Seeing how Subaru was too timid to properly ask, Reinhardt answered his unspoken question. The old man is unharmed. His safe release has been secured through Lady Felt's kindness. I didn't think he'd come in through the same corridor without you seeing his face, and I knew you two knew each other. It was easy to guess why you were anxious. When Subaru lifted a finger, Reinhardt moved quickly to assuage his concerns. But even he didn't know the true source of Subaru's sense of guilt. The instant Subaru had let himself leave Old Man Rom to rot, a dark cloud formed at the bottom of his heart, from which there was no salvation. Ferris chimed in. That's wonderful. You should thank Reinhardt and Lady Felt, because it's all thanks to them. Now you don't need to make any excuses at all, Subaru. An icy shudder ran up Subaru's spine. He looked up and turned to face Ferris. His amber eyes glittered like they could see right through Subaru, all the way to his soul. Having someone look inside him felt deeply unpleasant. Subaru forced a stiff face into motion to cover it up. Yeah, I'm so glad. Totally like I figured. It really was a good idea to leave it all to Amelia Ton and Felt. Better than anything I could have done. Right? That's right, isn't it? Subaru spread his arms wide as he gave both a dose of deliberate, exaggerated, clownish behavior. His next words even hastier and more flippant. But man, Felt really set her heart on winning the roast selection because of me, and that means one more strong rival for the throne. Amelia Ton might give me a real scolding for this one. In different ways, the expressions on Reinhardt's and Felix's faces changed in response to Subaru's sudden shift, but in the end, he chose not to press the point. Both knights were showing him pity. Subaru, painfully aware of the fact, ignored his crippled heart's pleas. So now that the talk is all over, where's Amelia Ton and everybody? The candidates remained in the chamber to discuss the fine details of the royal selection process. During that time, I said I would go check on you, and Ferris came with me, replied Reinhardt. Reinhardt's actions made sense, but he couldn't stop wondering why Ferris was showing his face too. Thus, Subaru asked the latter, Thanks for checking up on me, but is it all right not being by your master's side? It's totally fine. Lady Crush is much stronger than Fairy, so it's perfectly safe. Just laying that out there like that. How's a slacker like you and the Knights of the Royal Guard anyway? Ferris gave Subaru a sidelong glance and wagged a finger at him. His fingertip glowed with a blue light. You know why. Fairy's got a special talent that's in high demand. Why do I feel lighter, like my shoulders, knees, and hips aren't working as hard anymore? Subaru, your body's aching all over like an old man. That's your selling point, eh? Right. I heard you're a really good water mana user. In the first place, the reason Subaru was allowed to go with Amelia to the capital was to improve the poor physical condition he was in. The one who was supposed to heal him was none other than the cat-eared man before his eyes. Reinhard replied to Subaru's comment, saying, "The words 'really good' do not suffice, Subaru. It is fair to call Ferris the greatest master of water-type magic on the continent. It is not for nothing that he bears the title of Blue, standing at the pinnacle of those who share his magical affinity despite his young age." Reinhardt's praise prompted Ferris to push his chest out, displaying not the slightest shred of modesty. "Meow. The title came from all of Fairy's fans." Given that he really was a healer as good as his title, Subaru saw his numerous admirers in a new light. It really put into perspective that this person was treating him. Subaru's tone was heavy and pained as he had arrived at the answer he'd expected. So really did. So Lady Amelia indeed organized it, Reinhardt concluded. Subaru could only guess at the back and forth that arranged for his healing. That was why he couldn't stop the heavy melancholy rising deep in his heart. Asking Ferris in the Krush camp to treat his body meant relying on a political rival on the very eve of the royal election. In other words, Subaru had been dead weight for Amelia. Again. He asked, "Hey, why do I have to accept the treatment no matter what?" "Because she already paid. If Fairy doesn't heal you, Subaru, it'll mean Lady Emilia went through all that effort for nothing." "What's this payment? If it's just some object, you can hand it back, right?" Shot down at point-blank range, Subaru could only put a hand to his forehead and cradle his head. Even though Subaru didn't want to be a liability, it seemed that was all he had been to Amelia. He wanted to help her. That was Subaru's whole reason for being there. It was the one and only reason that gave his existence there any meaning. A tranquil voice echoed through the waiting room. The speaker was neither Reinhard nor Ferris, but a man with refined features leaning against the open door. Julius. "If you curse your own lack of strength so much, I believe you have one choice you can make." Subaru's face shut up like it had been slapped. "What? Oh, it's you." Subaru scowled with resentment. Julius received his gaze with a calm, composed look. "I would rather you did not make such a disagreeable expression. I did not expect a warm welcome, but letting your emotions get the better of you." "The better of me. So what?" "It brings the character of those who stand with you into question. Strive to remember this." Ugh. Subaru's throat constricted with anger. It wasn't the words themselves, but the sensitive places they jabbed. He maintained his silence as Julius strode past him toward an open window. "Now, I suppose you wanted to ask me what I am doing here?" The knight turned his back, surveying the grounds beyond the palace, narrowing his eyes as the breeze blew. "Naturally, I came to see you. I would like you to accompany me for a brief time." "How about it?" Julius asked with a sharp wave of his hand. The man's sharp gaze even then implied this was not some friendly suggestion. Just so you know, I'd never say yes to something like that, not knowing the place or what it's for, even on 1 hour's sleep. The place is the parade square. The objective, yes. In response to Subaru's seemingly casual but extremely biting words, Julius looked down in apparent thought. Then, with an arrogant smile, he spoke with as much venom as Subaru had. How about teaching you a lesson or two about reality? Some 10 minutes after that precariously sarcastic exchange, Subaru was standing atop tightly packed, sandy soil. They'd moved from the waiting room of the castle to the knight's garrison adjacent to the castle. The tamped-down, reddish training ground was ringed by stout walls that gave off a strong sense of the palace's history. The area was perhaps half the size of a high school campus, providing plenty of space for running around and crossing swords. Subaru tested his footing, then casually began stretching. Reinhardt, standing at the entrance of the parade grounds, tried to get Julius to relent. Julius, you should stop this. It isn't like you. The expression on his face was not one of haste or anger, but pure concern for Subaru's well-being. He continued, I accept it was a petty thing for him to say, but it was nothing that couldn't be settled by a retraction. Normally, you would judge as much yourself, no? That is precisely so, my good Reinhardt. Normally, I would. Julius was removing the ceremonial decorations from his Knights of the Royal Guard uniform one by one as he looked back at Reinhardt, his eyes betraying no emotion. Had it not been on this day, and had I met him in a different place, I might have simply let it be. However, it was not meant to be. My good name was sullied before those connected to the throne, and he spoke lightly of chivalry itself. Furthermore, he has not only failed to apologize, but has heaped on additional insults. Just like that, the faint murmurs that had filled the parade square fell silent. I shall now chase the base ruffian who has besmirched my knightly honor. Any objections? Abruptly, a wordless typhoon roared through the air over the training grounds. The gathered knights and guardsmen shouted, their voices creating the gale. No doubt, they saw things very simply. Julius was the representative against Subaru, the man who had disrespected them all. Never in his life had Subaru stood before so many people directing such hostile emotions at him. He remarked, Odds are about 700-0 with no one betting on me. I'm so unpopular, I could cry. Truthfully, it chilled him to the bone. His body was filled with an overwhelming urge to fall to his knees. Yet his heart was calm, and though his limbs felt heavy, they did not shake. It was not that he had resigned himself to his fate. Subaru really didn't understand the mental state he was in when Julius spoke up again. Now then, before we begin, I shall ask you once more. Do you intend to apologize for your earlier impropriety and ask for forgiveness? If you make a full apology for your repeated transgressions here and now, I shall pardon you. Repeated transgressions, huh? I can't think of any. And apologize how? Put your forehead to the ground with tears in your eyes. Or, if you find it more fitting, roll onto the ground and show me your belly to curry favor like the good lapdog you are. Neither choice is very elegant, so if you don't mind, I'll pass on both. No doubt, he'd never expected Subaru to accept. I see. Julius murmured to himself curtly, as he finally handed his knight's sword to one of his fellows standing beside him. He accepted a pair of wooden swords in its place. Properly speaking, it would not be strange for a man to cut you down for your foul tongue. However, you are Lady Amelia's vassal, whether she desires it or not. Accordingly, I shall face you using these wooden wasters. Any objections? Asked Julius's eyes. Subaru answered with a curt wave of his hand, signaling there was no problem. Concluding that his opponent had accepted from his gestures and expression, Julius nodded. The referee shall be Ferris. Julius glanced sideways at him, while Ferris casually lifted up his palm and waved back. Sure. He'd easily accepted the role of referee. There was no way to know what he thought on the inside. Unlike Reinhardt's hope to put a stop to this, Ferris seemed all too eager to get things underway. Have at it, you two. No matter what horrible wound you suffer, Fairy can patch you up as long as you don't actually die, Subaru. So good luck! Why'd you say that to just me? Worry about the other guy. Jeez. Meow. What strong resolve! Hear that, everyone? Alright. 1, mew, 3. Turning to the onlookers, Ferris raised both hands high and brought them down. At his signal, the parade square erupted in uproarious laughter, pouring scorn on Subaru's reckless words. Bathed in laughter, Subaru stepped forward and turned to face Julius. When Julius offered him one of the practice weapons, he gripped the hilt firmly, as if he was used to it. Similarly, Julius gripped the other waster and announced the start of the mock duel. At least you are enthusiastic. Shall we begin? Subaru, his skin crackling with the electric energy of the audience, poised the wooden sword and pulled back, then twirled the waster in his hand around as he complained. Time out. The feel of this doesn't seem right. Is that so? I do not think they differ much, but you may use this one if you prefer. Sorry. I'm a child of the modern era, so I don't want to use something that doesn't feel right. As he spoke, he accepted the wooden sword Julius offered him with one hand. In its place, he offered Julius the sword handed to him just earlier. Oops. Subaru's hand let the wooden sword go a moment before Julius's fingers could take it. Naturally, gravity caused the waster to fall. Julius instantly bent forward as his hand chased after it. The knight, his body curved forward, had lost his height advantage over Subaru. Subaru stepped forward and flipped the waster in his hand from down to up, aiming squarely at the tip of Julius's chin. Simultaneously, his left hand thrust straight forward, tossing the sand he'd covertly picked up during his warm-up exercises toward Julius's eyes. A classic blinding, two-step surprise attack. Got him now, thought Subaru, smiling with malicious satisfaction at his little trick. The next moment, he heard a voice right against his ear. It seems that you truly have no shame. It must make the vulgarity easy to come by. Simultaneously, a blow struck Subaru. He felt a sharp, hard jab right to the solar plexus. The shock to his torso shuddered through the rest of his body. He felt weightless. Just after his feet left the ground, his face slammed hard into the earth. Sandy dirt smeared his face, mixed with vomit forced down by the blow to his solar plexus. Pain and heat struck his brain with equal force. The next moment, the parade square erupted in boisterous cheers at how Subaru, the fool who did not know his place, received what he deserved. The boy curled into himself on the ground as the pain caught up, screaming into the sky above the parade square. Higher, higher, farther, farther.